Good morning, students. Today we are going to start a new chapter of history, lesson 4, that is rural life and society. In this chapter, we will study about the new policies made by the British in agricultural field and in rural society. Earlier, before the colonial rule, zamindars in Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa had a right to collect revenue on behalf of Mughal emperor. They were collecting the revenue and giving to the Mughal emperor. The Diwan used to supervise these zamindars to see that they should not be neither too lenient while collecting the revenue nor be over strict. But after the Battle of Buxar, the East India Company got the control over Diwani. Diwani means the right to collect revenue. So the East India Company got the right to Diwani after the Battle of Buxar. Now the main focus of the company was how to collect largest amount of revenue. They did not bother to assess revenue according to the production of crops, that the revenue should be revenue means tax which was collected from the peasants. So they did not bother that the revenue should be estimated or assessed according to the production of crops. Now production of crops can be good one year in one season, or it may not be good in the other season. So it was not assessed according to the production. Their main objective was trade. They used the income from Bengal to buy the raw material. Now, whatever income they were having by collecting the revenue from Bengal, that money was used by them to buy raw material like cotton and silk. And this raw material was exported by them to England in their factories. They were having the factories in England, so there the raw material was required, so they were exporting the raw material from India to England. Earlier, they were importing gold and silver from Britain. They were from Britain, gold and silver was imported, and in place of gold and silver, they were buying these Indian goods. But now, as they were having the income from the revenue collection, so there was no need to import gold and silver from Britain. But this policy of British led to crisis in the economy of Bengal. इकोनॉमी मीन्स फाइनेंशियल कंडीशन. फाइनेंशियल कंडीशन जो थी बंगाल की वो बिल्कुल नीचे गिर गई थी बिकॉज ऑफ दिस पॉलिसी. But this led to the economic crisis in the economy of Bengal. Because why this crisis was there? Because the company was only interested to collect highest revenue possible from the peasants of Bengal, but they were not bothering to support the peasants to increase the production of crops. The artisans, they were forced to sell their goods to the company at lowest prices. So some of these artisans, they started to leave the villages. Peasants were also unable to pay the high land revenues. They were also under the burden of high revenues. When this news of economic crisis reached the British Parliament, it passed a new law called Pitt's India Act. According to this law, the revenue and administration systems were built up. New systems were built up for revenue collection and for administration, so that the company rule can be made more efficient in Bengal. For this, Lord Cornwallis was sent to India as a new Governor General. He reformed the revenue and administrative system in Bengal. some of the new methods of revenue collection were adopted. First was permanent settlement. Permanent settlement was a contract between East India Company and the landholders of Bengal. Who were the landholders of Bengal? Zamindars and the independent talukdars. This system laid down a new method of revenue administration in the state of Bengal, Bihar, and Odisha. Now, this system was having some objectives. What were the objectives of this system? First was to ensure a minimum revenue for the company so that its trading activities should not be hampered. Hampered means stopped. So, minimum revenue was ensured for the company. The revenue which was collected by the zamindars, a share of that revenue was given to the company, and with that revenue only they were carrying on the trade. Second objective was to develop a system that would promote the agricultural production. Third was that zamindars were made intermediaries. Intermediaries means middlemen between peasants and the company. These zamindars were the middlemen between peasants and the company. They were made responsible to collect revenue from the peasants and give to the company, and they were also responsible for the to increase the agricultural production. Now these were the objectives of the permanent settlements. Now what were the features of permanent settlement? Now, as I have told you that earlier, the zamindars were collecting the revenue from the farmers on behalf of the Mughal emperor. Now, that time the farmers were the owners of their own land. वो खुद अपनी land के मालिक होते थे. But now, company had made जमींदार्स द ओनर्स ऑफ दीज लैंड्स. अब कंपनी ने क्या किया? जमींदार्स को ओनर्स बना दिया लैंड्स का. And the farmers, they became their tenants. Tenants means kiraedar. Now zamindars, they collected the revenue from the farmers and deposited to the company. Next feature of this settlement was that the total revenue which was to be paid was calculated on the basis of last 10 years record of yield, that how much production was there in last 10 years, and according to the measurement of the land was measured and the produce of last 10 years was calculated, and according to that the revenue was decided. The zamindars, they were required to pay 10/11th part of the revenue to the government, and they were allowed to keep the remaining 1/10th part. Means 1/10th part of revenue was kept by the zamindars themselves, and 10th/11th part was given to the company. Now in this case, the zamindars, they made efforts to increase agricultural production so that they can get more and more revenue. And if there were if there was any you can say in any season, if the production was good, in that case the zamindars could not demand for extra revenue. The extra benefit was only enjoyed by the zamindars. In this case, the government were not getting any extra benefit of revenue. In case if the agricultural production was good, then they could not claim for any extra revenue. However, if a zamindar failed to pay the revenue in time, then some part of his land or the entire zamindari territory was auctioned. Auction means नीलाम कर दी जाती थी, ताकि जो कंपनी का पैसा है, जो कंपनी को रेवेन्यू देना है, वो दिया जा सके. It was expected by the policy makers that since the zamindars will try to increase their own share of revenue collection by expanding cultivation and improving production, the peasants would also be financially, you can say, good. They will not face any financial problem and they will also be able to pay the taxes on time. Now what do you mean by that? That when the company made this policy, they made zamindars responsible for collecting the revenue and to increase the production. So they expected that by doing this, the zamindars will show more interest to increase the to expand cultivation. Why? Because if they will expand cultivation, they will also get a good share of revenue from that, and the peasants will also not face any financial problem to pay the taxes. So this was the motive of the company. But what was the impact of this permanent settlement on the economic structure of Bengal? क्या असर हुआ इस सेटलमेंट का बंगाल के इकोनॉमिक स्ट्रक्चर पे? देयर वाज opposite effect of this settlement. Zamindars, they regularly failed to pay the higher revenue demand according to this permanent settlement. They faced number of problems in collecting the revenue on time. So the this unpaid balance accumulated. जो रेवेन्यू उन्होंने पीजेंट से कलेक्ट करके कंपनी को देना था वो नहीं दे पा रहे थे, और ये जो बैलेंस था, जो रेवेन्यू था, ये इकट्ठा होता गया. The zamindars land was auctioned by the company to settle the dues. Now company had made zamindars the owners. As I have told you कि कंपनी ने जमींदार्स को उस लैंड का मालिक बना दिया था. तो अब उनकी जो लैंड थी उसको नीलाम कर दिया गया ताकि वो अपना रेवेन्यू जो है वो उनसे ले सके. Now why this condition came in front of them? क्या reasons थे that they had to face problem in collecting the revenue? First reason was that the revenue was fixed regardless of the harvest. अब चाहे हार्वेस्ट अच्छी हो, चाहे फसल अच्छी हो, चाहे ना हो, चाहे कोई नेचुरल कैलेमिटी आ जाए, चाहे कोई एक्सीडेंटल लॉस हो जाए प्रोडक्शन में क्रॉप्स के, बट द पीजेंट्स had to pay the tax on a time which was fixed by the zamindars. Second reason was that the zamindars found that the permanent settlement limited their power to collect rent from the ryot or the peasant. Peasants were also called the ryots. So they felt that उनकी जो powers थी उसको limited कर दिया गया था. Third reason was that sometimes the peasants, they were deliberately delaying the payment. वो जान करके पेमेंट को डिले कर देते थे because they happened to work on the lands of some rich peasants called जोतेदार. Now some peasants were rich also. These rich peasants were called जोतेदार्स. तो कुछ कई बार जो रियोट्स थे वो रिच पीजेंट्स की लैंड पे काम करते, उनको वहाँ पर पैसे मिलते थे. सो दैट इज़ वाई समटाइम्स दे डिलेड द पेमेंट. वो जान करके पेमेंट को लेट कर देते थे. नाउ दिस जोतेदार्स, दे वर हैविंग वास्ट एरियाज ऑफ लैंड. They were having control over local trade as well as money lending. They were lending the money also. उधार पे पैसे भी देते थे. They were having immense power. मतलब बहुत पावर थी उनके पास. किसके ऊपर पावर थी? ओवर द पुअर कल्टिवेटर्स. जो पुअर कल्टिवेटर्स थी उसके ऊपर उनकी पावर थी. सो these poor cultivators who were under the control of these jotedars, they were called under ryots. Fourth reason was that the zamindars, they were not staying for a long period in the rural area. वो villages में कम रहते थे. They went to the cities so that they can lead a luxurious life in the cities. सो दे बिकेम एब्सेंटी लैंडलॉर्ड्स. एब्सेंटी लैंडलॉर्ड मीन्स वो वहाँ से तो एब्सेंटी रहते थे, वो सिटीज़ में चले जाते थे. सो दे वर नॉट पेइंग any interest to improve the agriculture. So in this case the peasants became the victims of this system. शिकार कौन था इस सिस्टम का? peasants, because they had to pay only the they were made to pay only the taxes, and they were not receiving any help or support from the जमींदार्स. उनको कोई ज़मींदार से हेल्प तो या तो मिल नहीं रही थी, कोई सपोर्ट मिल नहीं रही थी, बट उनको टैक्स जो था वो हर हालत में पे करना पड़ता था. सो दिस वर द रीजंस दैट there was a negative effect of the permanent settlement on the economic structure of Bengal. ना एम्पावरिशमेंट ऑफ पीजेंट्री मीन्स जो पीजेंट्स थे वो पुअर होते जा रहे थे. बिकॉज ऑफ एक्सेसिव लैंड रेवेन्यू डिमांड, peasants did not invest any money to improve their land as they were not having any cash available with them. अब उनके पास कोई कैश तो बचता नहीं था, बिकॉज ग्रेटर पोर्शन जो था जो प्रोड्यूस करते थे वो दैट वाज टेकन अवे एज अ रेवेन्यू. जो जितना वो प्रोड्यूस करते उससे उसका बहुत बड़ा पार्ट तो एज अ रेवेन्यू चला जाता था. The government expected the zamindar to be totally responsible for the improvement of agricultural land, but did not invest in the land. अब जमींदार जो थे वो रेवेन्यू तो कलेक्ट कर लेते थे, लेकिन एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड की इम्प्रूवमेंट के लिए कुछ भी इन्वेस्ट नहीं करते थे. सो द पीजेंट्स लॉस्ट ऑल इंटरेस्ट इन इंक्रीजिंग द एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोडक्शन. तो इस केस में जो पीजेंट्स थे जो उसको लैंड को कल्टीवेट करते थे वो भी एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोडक्शन को इंक्रीज करने में कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं दिखा रहे थे. सो दीज हार्मफुल इफेक्ट्स ऑफ हाई टैक्सेशन became more unbearable because of rigid manner of its collection. Rigid manners means बहुत सख्ती के साथ टैक्स कलेक्ट किया जाता था. Land revenue was to be paid on fixed dates even if the harvest was below normal or it has failed completely. चाहे फसल कम हुई है चाहे बिल्कुल फेल हो गई है, हर हालत में जो पीजेंट्स थे उनको उनकी फिक्स डेट पे रेवेन्यू पे करना पड़ता था. अब अगर हार्वेस्ट ही नहीं हुई, फसल ही नहीं हुई, तो फिर पीजेंट्स रेवेन्यू कहाँ से पे करते थे? इन दैट केस दे हैड टू बोरो मनी एट हाई रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट फ्रॉम द मनी लैंडर्स. तो उनको मनी लैंडर्स से फिर उधार पे पैसा लेना पड़ता था, एंड द मनी लैंडर्स दे वर चार्जिंग वेरी हाई रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट, and they were also behaving in a cunning manner. How they were using, you can say, deceitful measures means उनको धोखा देने वाले तरीके वो यूज़ करते थे. like false accounting, उनके जो झूठे अकाउंट बना लेते थे. forged signatures, गलत जगह पर सिग्नेचर्स ले लेते थे. उनको ज़्यादा अमाउंट पे साइन करवा लेते थे, जितना उन्होंने बोरो किया होता उससे कहीं ज़्यादा अमाउंट पे वो साइन करवा लेते थे. एंड इन दिस वे द पीजेंट गॉट डीपर एंड डीपर इनटू डेट मीन्स कर्जा. और ऐसे पीजेंट्स जो थे वो कर्जे में धीरे धीरे और ज़्यादा डूबते ही जाते थे, एंड लास्ट में उनको अपनी लैंड भी देनी पड़ती थी डेट अपना चुकाने के लिए, कर्जा चुकाने के लिए. सो इन दिस वे पीजेंट्स वर अंडर द ट्रिपल बर्डन. कैसे था? फर्स्ट बर्डन वाज ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, सेकंड बर्डन ऑफ जमींदार, थर्ड बर्डन ऑफ मनी लेंडर. सो ही was under the burden of triple, you can say he was under the triple burden. After these three had taken their share, गवर्नमेंट अपना शेयर ले लेती, ज़मींदार अपना शेयर ले लेता, मनी लेंडर अपना शेयर ले लेता, उसके पास, कल्टीवेटर के पास तो कुछ बचता ही नहीं था कि वो अपनी फैमिली को पाल सके. Next system was Mehalwari system of revenue collection. Now, what happened in early 19th century? There was a improvement in the prices of agricultural products in the market. Market में agricultural products के जो prices थे वो बढ़ गए. Now, in this condition, the company officials became restless. अब उनको चैन कैसे आए? Because according to permanent settlement, the चाहे एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन ज़्यादा हो चाहे कम हो, देयर रेवेन्यू वॉज फिक्स्ड. उनका रेवेन्यू फिक्स था. वो डिमांड नहीं कर सकते थे. अगर मान लो एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन ज़्यादा होती है या प्राइसेस ज़्यादा बढ़ जाते हैं, तो किसी भी केस में वो ज़्यादा रेवेन्यू की डिमांड नहीं कर सकते थे अकॉर्डिंग टू परमानेंट सेटलमेंट. नाउ they felt restless because the prices of agricultural products had increased, but they could not demand for high revenue now. So, what they did, they introduced a new system, that was Mehalwari system, in the states of Awadh and Agra in Uttar Pradesh, parts of Orissa and Madhya Pradesh, and in Punjab. Now, according to this system, they said that the revenue of the land could be revised periodically depending on the trend of the market. क्या उन्होंने इस सिस्टम के अकॉर्डिंग किया था कि जो रेवेन्यू का अमाउंट है वो रिवाइज किया जा सकता है टाइम टू टाइम डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द रेट ऑफ द मार्केट. रिवाइज्ड मीन्स उसको बढ़ाया जा सकता है, उसको चेंज किया जा सकता है. इन दिस सिस्टम द रेवेन्यू सेटलमेंट वॉज मेड विद द रेवेन्यू एस्टेट और महल. अब ये महल क्या था? महल वॉज कुड बी अ सिंगल विलेज और अ ग्रुप ऑफ विलेजेस. इन दिस द हेडमैन ऑफ ईच महल, अब इस महल में एक विलेज भी आ सकती थी या फिर ग्रुप ऑफ विलेजेस भी इंक्लूड किए जा सकते थे. एंड द हेडमैन ऑफ ईच महल was made responsible for collecting the revenue from each peasant according to the area of land he owned, and the collected revenue was given to the company by the headman. अब इसमें मिडलमैन कौन था? हेडमैन. हेडमैन पीजेंट से रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करता था और कंपनी को दे देता था. दिस वॉज द महलवारी सिस्टम. Now the next system was Ryotwari system. It was introduced in the Madras Presidency, and later on it covered the Bombay Presidency as well as the whole of South India. And this system was introduced by the Governor of Madras, Thomas Munro. Now in this system the company decided that this area did not have traditional जमींदार्स. इन एरियाज़ में कोई ज़मींदार्स नहीं थे. जैसे पहले मैंने बताया कि पहले ज़मींदार्स जो थे वो रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करके देते थे मुगल एम्परर्स को. बट इन दीज एरियाज देयर वर नो ट्रेडिशनल ज़मींदार्स एंड द पीजेंट्स दे वर द ट्रेडिशनल टिलर्स ऑफ देयर लैंड. टिलर्स मीन्स जो खुद अपनी लैंड को कल्टिवेट करते थे, एंड दे वर द ओनर्स ऑफ देयर लैंड. सो अंडर अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस सिस्टम these tillers of the lands, or you can say the riots of these lands, they were free to sell or transfer their lands. They were the owners of the lands. You can say they were paying directly the taxes to the company. According to this system, there was no middleman. The peasants who were owners of their own lands, they were supposed to pay the taxes or the revenues directly to the company. There was no middleman in this system, and they were free to sell or transfer their lands. But this system failed to protect the interest of the riots, because the revenue was too high and the method of collection was inflexible. The peasants, as the revenue was high, so the peasants were forced to pay loans, forced to take loan from the money lenders. उनको उधार पे पैसा लेना पड़ता था, and they were exploited by the money lenders. As I have told you earlier that money lenders जो थे वो नाजायज़ फ़ायदा उठाते थे peasants का, वो फॉल्स सिग्नेचर ले लेते, गलत अमाउंट पे सिग्नेचर्स करवा लेते थे. So this system was also failed. Now after this there was a growth of commercial crops. Now commercial crops, what were commercial crops? The crops which were grown for the benefit, for making profit. जो crops profit कमाने के लिए grow किए जाते हैं, that are called commercial crops. Now British company encouraged or forced the peasants to grow certain crops like cotton, jute, oil, oil seeds, tea, coffee, indigo, groundnuts, sugarcane, tobacco, and opium. Why they forced the peasants to grow these crops? Because they were selling these crops in the markets. They were purchasing the crops at a lower prices from the peasants and selling them at high prices in the market. So these crops were called the cash crops. Now the motive behind this policy of the company was to meet the rising demand for these crops in the British and other European countries. Now, in the British companies and the other European companies, there was a great demand of these crops. So, the East India Company uh, wanted to meet these demands. वो उनकी डिमांड्स को पूरा करने के लिए इंडियन पीजेंट्स को फोर्स कर रहे थे कि वो ये वाले क्रॉप्स ग्रो करें ताकि वो इन क्रॉप्स को यूरोपियन कंट्रीज में बेच सके. The effect of this commercialization was disastrous for the small farmers of India. बहुत नुकसानदायक था ये कमर्शलाइजेशन जो थी, इसका इफ़ेक्ट बहुत बुरा था फार्मर्स के ऊपर. बिकॉज द इंक्रीजिंग डिमांड ऑफ कैश क्रॉप्स including the vegetables was met by substitution of traditional food crops by the cash crops. अब क्या करना पड़ता था फार्मर्स को? जो वो फूड क्रॉप्स ग्रो करते थे अपनी लैंड पे अपनी फैमिली के खाने को पूरा करने के लिए, वो अपनी फैमिली जो उनको खाने के लिए क्रॉप्स चाहिए होते थे पहले वो उन्हीं क्रॉप्स को ग्रो करते थे, लेकिन अब उनको फूड क्रॉप्स की जगह पर कैश क्रॉप्स ग्रो करने के लिए फोर्स किया जा रहा था. सो दिस डिस्ट्रॉयड द सेल्फ सफिशेंसी ऑफ द विलेजर्स. सेल्फ सफिशेंसी मीन्स अब उनको खाने के लिए मार्केट के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट होना पड़ रहा था. पहले वो अपनी लैंड के ऊपर ही अपने फूड क्रॉप्स ग्रो कर लेते थे और उन्हीं में से उनका खाना पूरा हो जाता था, लेकिन अब उनको अपने खाने के लिए मार्केट के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट होना पड़ रहा था. So the poor farmers, he was under a great loss because he had to now depend upon the market for his own food requirements, and cash crops which he was growing, he had to sell that cash crops also at the lower prices to the company. कंपनी जो थी उनसे जो कैश क्रॉप्स जो वो ग्रो कर रहे थे वो बहुत कम पैसे देती थी कंपनी उसको खरीदने के लिए. एंड देवर कंपनी वॉज सेलिंग देम इन देयर मार्केट, यूरोपियन मार्केट, एट वेरी हाई रेट्स. नाउ द ऑल दिस फैक्टर्स लेड टू द पीजेंट रिवोल्ट. अब जो इतना कुछ हुआ, जो ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी जो पीजेंट्स के साथ जो ये नई नई पॉलिसीज़ बना रही थी और उनको फोर्स कर रही थी, तो उससे क्या हुआ, पीजेंट्स ने रिवोल्ट कर दिया. रिवोल्ट मतलब विद्रोह कर दिया. Now, it has been seen that during this period, the growth of new crops disrupted, or you can say disturbed, the pattern of peasant life, and this disturbance led to the revolts. With the expansion of British power in Bengal, indigo planting became more and more commercially profitable due to the demand for blue dye in Europe. Now, among these revolts, there was a one of them was indigo revolt. Now, what was this indigo? Indigo was a plant which produced blue color, and this plant was used by the European countries in their industries, in their you can say textile industries, to dye the clothes. जैसे हम कपड़े को डाई करते हैं ना, कलर देते हैं. So this indigo was in much demand, too much in demand in these European countries, and the planting of indigo was forced in our country by the British. पीजेंट्स को फोर्स किया जा रहा था कि वो अपनी लैंड के ऊपर इंडिगो ग्रो करें. ब्रिटिश इंडिगो प्लांटर्स, दे स्टार्टेड रेजिंग देयर ओन प्लांटेशंस. अब यहाँ पर जो इंडिया में जो ब्रिटिश थे, उन्होंने क्या किया, अपने प्लांटेशन खरीद लिए, बना लिए, एंड दे स्टार्टेड रेजिंग इंडिगो ऑन दैट fields. They provided whatever things were required for growing indigo, like plows, seeds, and fertilizers, and they hired the peasants. उन्होंने peasants को hire किया, किराए पे लिया, who would work on their land. But this system was more expensive and also burdensome, as generally sometimes they could not get indigo workers for their land. तो उनको कई बार अपने इन प्लांटेशंस के ऊपर काम करने के लिए इंडिगो वर्कर्स मिलते ही नहीं थे, एंड दिस वाज वेरी एक्सपेंसिव एंड बर्डनसम सिस्टम. सो व्हाट दे डिड, दे ऑप्टेड फॉर रियोटी सिस्टम. अब उनको ये प्लांटेशन सिस्टम महंगा पड़ रहा था और उनको वर्कर्स भी नहीं मिल रहे थे इंडिगो कल्टीवेशन करने के लिए, तो उन्होंने फिर एक नया सिस्टम बनाया, दैट वाज रियोटी सिस्टम. अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस सिस्टम, दे मर्सीलेसली परस्यूड द पीजेंट्स. अब उनको पीजेंट्स को वो बहुत बुरी तरह से फोर्स करके, उनके ऊपर जुल्म करके वो इंडिगो प्लांट करने के लिए इंसिस्ट करते थे, फोर्स करते थे इंस्टेड ऑफ फूड क्रॉप्स. उनको बोला जाता था कि वो फूड क्रॉप्स ग्रो नहीं करेंगे अपनी लैंड के ऊपर, इंस्टेड ऑफ फूड क्रॉप्स दे विल ग्रो indigo plant, and they provided them loans at low interest. Now whatever things which were required for growing indigo, to buy those things, British were providing the farmers loans at low interest. But once a farmer took such loans, अगर वो farmer एक बार लोन ले लेता था उनसे, तो वो हमेशा के लिए उस कर्जे में डूब जाता था. Why? Because the sale of indigo to the company fetched the farmers a return that was lower than the market rate. Because जो वो इंडिगो ग्रो करते थे उनको कंपनी उसके लिए बहुत कम पैसे देती थी. एंड आफ्टर द कल्टिवेशन ऑफ इंडिगो, उनकी जो लैंड थी उसकी फर्टिलिटी कम हो जाती थी, एंड इट बिकेम अनफिट फॉर राइस कल्टिवेशन. सो देयर बेस्ट लैंड्स वर used for indigo cultivation. The peasants, they lost big lands, sizable amount of you can say lands, because of this indigo cultivation. जिस लैंड के ऊपर वो पहले इतने ज़्यादा सीरियल्स ग्रो करते थे, लार्ज अमाउंट ऑफ सीरियल्स वर ग्रोन ऑन दोज लैंड्स, and instead of that they had to grow now indigo on that land, and for that they had to take loan from the company, and that indigo plantation or indigo cultivation made their land unfit for rice cultivation. So in this way they were in big loss, and the government was also favored the planters. So what was the result of this? The result was that the farmers, they revolted against this indigo plantation. The farmers, they refused to sow indigo plant in their lands. So they got support from the educated middle class in the revolt. Now the British government, when they heard about this indigo rebellion in Bengal, they were worried. So for that, now what they did, they set up the indigo commission so that they can inquire into the system of indigo production, ताकि वो इंक्वायरी कर सके कि वाकई में एक्चुअली में ये इंडिगो प्रोडक्शन में क्या peasants फेस कर रहे हैं. So this commission, which was set up by the British, they inquired the whole situation and they found that the indigo planters were guilty. उनको फिर सारी सिचुएशन जब उन्होंने पूरी इंक्वायरी की तो उनको पता चला कि इंडिगो प्लांटर्स जो हैं वो कसूरवार है, उनका कसूर है. So what was declared by this commission? That the commission said that the riots can fulfill the existing contracts. जो उन्होंने ऑलरेडी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर रखा है उसको वो पूरा कर ले, बट उसके बाद दे वर फ्री टू रिफ्यूज़ टू प्रोड्यूस इंडिगो इन फ्यूचर. उसके बाद इन फ्यूचर वो इंडिगो प्रोड्यूस अगर नहीं करना चाहते तो वो रिफ्यूज़ कर सकते हैं. आफ्टर दिस rebellion, indigo rebellion, this cultivation of indigo almost stopped in Bengal. अब बंगाल में ये इंडिगो कल्टीवेशन स्टॉप हो गई, बट अब ये कहाँ शिफ्ट हो गई? चंपारण में शिफ्ट हो गई. चंपारण वॉज अ रीजन इन बिहार. नाउ the Champaran region of Bihar also faced a similar situation as it was in Bengal. Now indigo peasants, they suffered here slavery like bondage. स्लेवरी क्या होती है? गुलामी वाली उनको जो बॉन्डेज थी वो फेस करनी पड़ रही थी. महात्मा गांधी, when he reached Champaran in 1916, he, you can say, took a lead to solve this problem in Champaran and took up, you can say, the responsibility to stop to stop the suffering of indigo peasants there, to save the indigo peasants there. So there Mahatma Gandhi fought for the peasants of Champaran against this indigo plantation. So this was all about the chapter. I hope all of you have understood the chapter completely. You can listen to the explanation again and again, then you will understand more properly. And still, if you have any queries, you can ask in the query class. Okay, so have a nice day, students.